Hello, welcome to the Volunteer Summit. If you haven't met us before, I'm John.
I'm Ellen.
And we manage the volunteer program with Park Pride and get to work with great folks like you all the time to help make big things happen in your park. Park Pride, if you didn't know, Park Pride's volunteer program is actually one of Park Pride's first programs and still the most public facing. Annually, we engage between 6,000 and 7,000 volunteers for between 22, 23,000 volunteer hours of service. That is a ton of work being given back to local parks. Through those projects, we're working with anybody and everybody. Community members like yourself are the biggest source of volunteers and volunteer time in your park, so thank you.
Sorry we're not there with you guys, but we're going to show you a short video of some best practices and some upcoming exciting things in our programming.
So Ellen and I are a bit biased towards engaging volunteers in your park and just the benefits of that. So if you aren't engaging volunteers already and promoting general volunteerism, we definitely encourage you to start now. First and foremost, volunteer activity brings positive activity into your park. If you're dealing with negative activity, things you want pushed out, this is the perfect way to get more eyes and ears kind of into that space to bring that positive change. Coordinating volunteer work days and events is also a great way to meet your neighbors, as well as to bring in local businesses or potential supporters for your space for those larger projects. Volunteer work days. This is also your opportune chance to get those boots on the ground and put your or bring your vision for your park into reality by making those changes that you're wanting to make.
So one of the things we found works really well for our groups is coordinating regular work days. And that schedule can look however works best for your group. For example, you could have monthly work days. Maybe you pick the second Saturday of every month. Some of our groups take off months when the weather is bad, so maybe in the winter and the summer you take a break and you focus all your efforts in the spring and the fall. Whatever works best for your group that you can put out to your neighbors and they can kind of know what to expect, that really helps generate regular volunteers for your work days. So it's not just about getting the work done, it's also about your volunteers' experience. So it really helps to make things fun. You want your volunteers to want to come out again. You want them to go tell their friends and tell their other neighbors that they had a great time and invite them out. And making the experience kind of more of a, not just work, more play is really helpful as well. Make sure your elected officials know about your work days and your other events in your park. It really helps to build that positive relationship, and then you can generate support from your elected officials for your future efforts.
We recognize that you guys are actually a bunch of volunteers as well, and really the best volunteers ever. We greatly appreciate your support. Burnout is a real thing, especially when you're working from passion. So a couple tips for trying to lessen the chance of burnout is division of labor. When you're working and recruiting members of the Friends of the Park group, people like to be asked to do something specific, So from a volunteer perspective, a role that we see commonly is sort of a volunteer/maintenance coordinator, someone that's going to take the role of communicating with us about the workday, as well as helping to coordinate with the city or the county, for support, just making sure there's approvals and sign-in sheets. That way, all that's not sitting on one person. There is a role for everybody. I think it's just a matter of communicating with the people and figuring out what they're interested in doing. Delegate. If somebody's passionate about something specific, if somebody's really into invasive removal, or they really want to build a pollinator garden or a trail or some other project, if that project has support from the group, let that person run with it. If they feel like they own that project, then they're likely to commit more time and energy towards executing it, and it frees you and other members of your group up to take on other projects. Team leaders are always needed for projects. These are folks that you can just count on always being out at the projects. The more individuals come out to projects, the more they learn kind of the best practices with those different projects. If someone asks to help, ask them how they want to contribute. They might have think of something that you haven't thought of. They might have a unique skill set, a unique skill set that is something you hadn't considered yet. I also encourage you to coordinate with the other neighboring Friends of the Park groups. Likely you guys are kind of pulling from the same teams of volunteers or working with the same council or commissioners. So coordinate. If make sure you're not having work days on the same day, and ask the other friends groups to come help you out. So maybe they've got a little bit more experience in some sort of project area. So let them come in as team leaders to help lead those projects, or teach your team so that everybody learns and comes away stronger. If someone asks to help, ask how they contribute. Not everybody can do everything or wants to do everything. W.D. Thompson Park has a great volunteer who does baked goods every single workday. How fabulous is that?
So you need volunteers to run a volunteer project, right? So who can you reach out to in your neighborhood? Our Friends of the Park groups use a variety of volunteer sources. So some examples are schools. If you have a college or a university nearby, a lot of those schools have clubs, they have service organizations, fraternities, sororities, and they want to get out and do community service. So if you make those contacts, you can even work with them year to year, even when there are new students involved, as long as you maintain that connection. Even high schools and middle schools, a lot of those students need service hours to graduate, and they can do just as much as some college students, so don't forget about them. So maybe you have scouts in your neighborhood, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. The younger kids can do a lot of different projects, but also the Eagle Scouts and the Gold Award for Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, they need a big project to take on. So you can even identify something specific that they can take and run with it. Maybe you have some faith-based organizations in your neighborhoods. A lot of churches do service. Maybe you have some synagogues. Any congregation can be a good source of volunteers, and just make that connection and invite them out to your park. Maybe they want to host an event in the park and they want it to be clean, so maybe they'll help you clean it up. What about your neighborhood associations and civic associations? Some of them have beautification committees. They have organized meetings where you can promote your group and your events, and you can invite volunteers out to the park. They even have publications that you can maybe tag onto and promote your work days. What about the people using your park? Do you have recreation leagues? Maybe you have a tennis league. Maybe you have some soccer teams that come and practice in the park or play their games there. They're great volunteers as well. They use the park, so they want it to look nice, and they're great sources to reach out to invite to your work days. So some of our Friends of the Park play ambassador to their group, and they're just out in the park introducing themselves to everyone that's out there. They're handing out flyers for their events. They're handing out little business cards. They're adding people to their email list. So even just individuals that you meet out in the park can become great volunteers. Finally, there are corporate groups. Maybe ask your neighbors if they work for a company that has a service program. They may be able to bring their coworkers out and make it an event out of it and get their corporate social responsibility in.
Don't rely on just Park Pride for volunteers in your neighbor. Reach out to other nonprofit organizations. Atlanta is full of a lot of really amazing groups that you can work with, and a lot of you guys are already working with some of these groups. A couple folks, or a couple of the most common groups, we work with Trees Atlanta. Trees Atlanta is an amazing organization. They do a ton of work around invasive removal, forest restoration, obviously tree plantings. They've got a vast skill set of just knowledge of what to do and how to do it. They also do a lot of education events, so you might consider partnering with them to bring additional volunteers to your park. And a number of parks have embraced Trees Atlanta. Pebble Tossers focus on youth-based volunteerism, but they've got a huge database of individuals that come out. And don't think that you're just getting 6 and 8-year-olds. 6-year-olds aren't coming out alone. So So when kids come out, typically their families come with them. So that's just kind of a jackpot right there. They're also wonderful to work with. Community Bucket, their tagline is service made social. They do roughly monthly work days, and then a couple bigger ones throughout the year. You're getting 20s to 40-year-olds that are coming out, individuals that sign up that want to be there. They work hard, they're fun to work with. And they love working in parks and directly with the Friends of the Park groups. A slightly more unique one is Master Gardener or garden clubs. These are obviously some more skilled volunteers and a little bit harder to get a hold on. But these are some committed folks that would definitely encourage you to work on trying to develop relationships with. With all of these groups or any group that comes to work with you, cultivate them, invite them back out, email them, thank them. Again, your ultimate goal is to not just have one work day with these volunteers. You want to create opportunities and create events that encourages them to come back out. So let them have a good time, and then make sure that they're coming back out so they can contribute even more.
Work days are a great opportunity for volunteers to learn. So you may want to take the time to explain to them, for example, why do we want to mulch a tree, or what's the difference between an invasive and a native, to help them understand why the tasks they're doing are important and make them feel kind of more motivated, and they'll feel like it's a more meaningful project. In addition to your kind of basic projects and why those are important, you'll want to give them a sense of context for your neighborhood and your park. So tell them what you know about the history of your community and the history of the park. It really helps them feel like this is an important place to you and your group, and it makes them more motivated to work hard and make it look nice. So you'll also want to let your neighbors know and your volunteers about what your group is up to. So tell them about your next event, tell them about the grant project you're working on, and all your future plans for the park so they can get excited about what's to come.
Administrative duties, boo! No, I'm just kidding. This is important, and you got to do it. It's just part of the programming to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. Again, along the theme of just making sure that folks know about work days and trying to kind of build a group is track emails. Make sure you're sensitive with it and make sure you give people a chance to kind of opt out. You don't just start spamming everybody. But if somebody comes out to the volunteer project and signs in, email them back. Send an email after the fact to say thank you for coming out. And then when you're scheduling your next events, make sure that they're included on that. You want to build up that database so that you can slowly build up your numbers of who's coming out to volunteer. Waivers. Make sure everybody signs a waiver. Liability is real. It doesn't necessarily fall on you, but very, very much does fall on the jurisdiction that you're working in, as well as Park Pride. If you need sign-in sheets, they are on our website, as well as Ellen and I are more than happy, or Tina or Kayla or anybody, just more than happy to help get those to you. That's also just the easiest way, again, to track those volunteers that are coming out, so you can track your volunteer hours. I know we bug y'all about this a lot, but it is very important to document your hours, who's coming out, who's volunteering, and then sending those back to Park Pride. We have to report out on those to the jurisdictions just as part of those contracts. So there is kind of an obligation on that point. But this also is the documentation that you are doing work in your park. People want to see numbers. People want to see what's happening. When you go to your council person or your elected official to say, hey, we'd love to get some support from you. In the past year, we've donated this many hours to the park. When you send all that stuff, we track everything, and all you have to do is say, hey, John, hey, Ellen, how many hours did we have in 2018? Or how many hours have we had since 2015? We're more than happy to pull a report for you and get all those hours to you. But if we don't get the hours, then we can't help you. We use that data for our own fundraising. We write grants every single day that include various deliverables, and it a lot of times deals with metrics related to the volunteer program. So again, us tracking those helps to justify getting grants that make our programs and support even possible. So administrative duties aren't the most exciting thing, but they are completely necessary. And maybe there's a volunteer that this is the right job for them. Maybe there's somebody that has no interest in being out in the woods pulling privet, or they don't like bugs, but they love a spreadsheet. So would definitely encourage you to try to find that right person, so that you can make sure that you kind of dot your I's and cross your T's.
So what's next for the Park Pride Volunteer Program? First, we're working on ways to support you guys to host more volunteers in your parks. We get more requests than we're able to handle, just the two of us, John and me, with our 2 trucks now. So we want to share the love with you guys and kind of get you to the point where you're ready for volunteers and we can engage more people in the parks. So we're also working on a shared calendar where you can post your work days. So when we get requests from groups, we can look at that calendar and see if there's a project that you guys are hosting on that group's date, and we can send them straight to you. We're also looking for ways to encourage you guys to collaborate with each other, whether that's sharing volunteers. So maybe you worked with a great group that you want to send to another park and share the love, or maybe that means volunteering at somebody else's work day. So you can, help each other out. Maybe you have expertise or skills that another group doesn't have, and you can help them with those specific projects. Or maybe you have great team leaders that can come out and facilitate volunteers at other parks. So we're always open to more ideas about how we can best support you. So if you have an idea about the volunteer program, please feel free to reach out to me or John. I'm at ellen@parkpride.org, and John is john@parkpride.org.
Thanks again for all that y'all do. Again, we're sad we're not there. We're actually out at another work day, but hope to see you in your park soon. You guys really are the most dedicated volunteers there are. You do absolutely amazing work, and I hope you realize that work that you guys are doing really is going to benefit generations to come. So thank you for the work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, we can't thank you enough. We're so inspired by what you do, and please feel free to reach out if you ever need support from us. We are always here.
Bye.
Bye.
Park Pride, 30 years for the greener good.
Back to you, Tina.